so stoked to have my next guest join us. Their brand new album is called The Cannonballers. It's the guys of Colony House. Caleb Park?
That's correct. What's going on?
What's up?
This is my very first time meeting you, Caleb. We were just chatting off camera. We did this eons ago when we were young men.
Yeah. Back, maybe in a different decade even.
True.
Yeah. Gosh, you put it that way, it makes us sound really old.
Yeah, man.
How are things? You guys, I appreciate the time. It looks like you guys are on the road somewhere.
We are. We're in Savannah, Georgia. Got ourselves an off day on the Cannonballers tour. We were in Charlotte last night. We're headed south to Orlando. But yeah, we're just in the back of our bus on a beautiful day.
This is exciting because I'm sure you've been very excited to get the music out there and to play it live. But tell me about being back on the road in a bus doing this. It's got to be joyful, but then again, at the same time, I'm sure you're like, back to, pits and bits.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to find our sea legs. But it's just awesome to go back out on the road and not, with the pandemic and everything there were so many hoops to have to jump through in those days of trying to figure out how to get your music out there in any kind of live way. And so there is this nice kind of exhale of like, oh, we're back doing our job. This is one of our favorite parts of this job. So, it feels kind of like riding a bike.
We spent the better part of like almost 3 months learning the new album to play live and putting together the tour set. So like we've been playing and rehearsing for so long, and now it's like trying to shake ourselves a little bit. Like, oh no, guys, we're doing it now. Like we put in all this work. The album's been out for a little bit now, and it just kind of feels like just trying to soak up every moment and enjoying it. And the crowds have been super responsive to the new tunes. And you never know how a song is going to go live until you play it live for the first time.
Yeah.
And so the first show of this tour was the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, which the couple weeks leading up to it, we were like, well, that was a dumb idea, putting the most important show as the first one back. The stress of it was just gnarly.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have the Ryman set be something that we just felt great about. But we're like, well, this is the first time we're playing these new songs live, so I hope they work. And they have been working, and so I would say gratefulness. We're feeling super, just lots of gratitude for being back out here and just being able to have new conversations with old friends and brand new conversations with new friends too.
One of your older songs called "You Know It" recently went viral on TikTok. A lot of videos being made with that one. What was your reaction when you saw the numbers and people using that song?
We had no idea really what TikTok even was. We noticed our numbers our streaming numbers on It started skyrocketing. And we were like, what is happening with this song? Had no idea because we weren't on the platform yet. And we started, digging in, and we're like, oh, there's something happening over in this TikTok universe. Which is kind of the way you always want it, right? You never want to fabricate, whatever virality or a hit or something like that. The best case scenario is it's just an authentic, like, hey, that's great. This happened. And happened with that song, and it honestly breathed a lot of kind of wind in our sails over that time of just like in a time of so many big question marks in regards to like, what does our job look like for the next year or two? That was a cool little win in all of it, a little victory.
I'm sure TikTok knows you better than a lot of what you're sharing in the music, but at the same time, the music does reveal different sides of you. This album is just fantastic, by the way, and it shows the appreciation for where you're at in this stage of your life. And Franklin, Tennessee, it seems to be at the forefront right now with yourselves. Obviously, Paramore is back in action.
Yeah.
What is it about Tennessee that has a lot of people just so loyal and wants to share their love and appreciation for?
I don't know, man. I think a big part of it, maybe this could be a universal thing where like when the pandemic happened, everyone went home, and anyone that traveled for a living more or less went back home for a year or two. And you, we hadn't really realized that we hadn't been home for longer than a couple months and maybe 10 years, and um and so I think part of that, just like seeing an entire year back home without
all the
interruptions.
seasons.
Yeah, like you fall back in love with like, yeah, the place you called home for so long. And then you start from that, you almost start reconnecting with people that you haven't talked to in a while, or you go visit places now, or whether you meant to or not, you drive by a spot where you have a memory from high school with your friends or whatever, and it just started like creating a lot of emotion for me. On the lyrical side, there's just what a time of reflection those 2 years were for everyone. You really start thinking about um, your past, present, and future, and that's how I felt. That's how I felt in that time. So I think it was just reconnecting in that way with home and what that means. I think Nashville's a magical place for creatives and for storytellers. You look around and there's, some of the greatest songwriters in the world are there. And what's cool about these songwriters, to me, the ones that have been in the business forever, they just haven't had enough. They still push for another story. They're still fascinated by telling a story that captivates.
Park, as you listen and play these songs on this album, I'm sure there's got to be one or two that just really resonates with you. Which songs would those be?
The two that pop into my brain, second to last track, "Do You Ever Feel?"
Yes.
It's just,
it's such a great song.
That one is just not.
Thank you.
We love that song, and I feel that song every time I listen to it and we play it live. There's just something about it. I mean, very obviously the chorus is pretty direct with the sentiment, and I answer yes, I do feel that way. And then also, "Don't Give Up on Me" is another big one that feels like a very classic Colony House song, in that it's on the one hand, it's kind of Caleb, bearing some of his soul there, lyrically, just kind of, talking about some of his feelings that are personal, and yet it's also this rallying cry that we're seeing night after night, and night after night, fans being putting their fists in the air, and I can tell, and every time I see someone singing "Don't Give Up on Me," I'm like, well, they're singing that for a reason that I don't know about. That's probably very important to them. So to me, that one, both those two, kind of in tandem, feel just like really important songs, not just for us, but it seems like for our fans too.
I am on the same page with you, man. In fact, I have it in my notes here. The album's so new. I'm still learning the lyrics and all that, but I mean, it just really hit hard for me, Caleb. The lyrics where you're like, "Call me when you get my message. I'm sorry that it's taken so long, but you know how life goes. It's faster when you're older." That really hit home for me because I feel like the last 3 years were a blur.
Yeah.
And for an artist that tours, it's got to be even faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I wrote that song for my best friend uh, that I grew up with, and that, it's been hard to stay connected after high school. And through that's one of those relationships I really thought a lot about during the pandemic. And some really tough things happened in his life and made me just, my heart was broken for him and his family. And so I was just thinking a lot about our relationship, and that's, yeah, that verse specifically is like, it's pretty much the thoughts exactly on like, I'm sorry, sorry that it's taken so long to reconnect. And I've always thought that, the older we get, our perspective on time, our ratio gets a little shorter. And it's like, I think it's just scientific. These days are getting shorter for us because we have more of them to compare it to. And I don't know. I mean, I think that's what's so powerful about that song is it's a little bit of an ellipses. It's like it doesn't wrap. It's not a wrapped up sentiment, and I think that's important for people. Kind of like I was saying earlier, like it's the most important thing is that we care, and a lot of times caring is just being in that kind of struggle, in that tension in between a question and an answer. And that's what that song is it's just kind of bearing your soul of like, I feel this way, do you ever feel this way? And just that's kind of why people go to therapy, right? It's like, this is how I feel, does anyone else feel like this? And to me, that is the therapy, right? It's not the therapist saying, well, sure, and we should try these things to help you get to the next step.
It's the conversation.
It's the discipline and the practice of getting it out and saying, I feel this way. And and asking, does anyone else feel? It is about as on the nose, if as far as a journal entry would go, that's about as close to like verbatim as it would get.
Yeah, yeah. And you got me and Park here welling up every time we hear the song.
That's awesome, man.
Park, you mentioned right at the top about playing the Ryman very first show of tour, but now you're going to play Bonnaroo. Now you'll have already played these songs live and had little feedback and kind of get a vibe for what to expect. I know you can't expect, but how do you think you're going to approach the Bonnaroo set?
Ooh, good question. I have no idea how we're going to approach it. Something in me is thinking that whenever we play festivals, I'll say it this way: 9 times out of 10, the slots we're playing, whether they're like a desirable spot or not, we always end up getting there. And we're like, we should probably just like play Rager songs because people at a festival just want to have a good time. And every time that we've done that, gotten a good response. So I'm just going to go ahead and guess that we're going to play the Rager set. And if classic Colony House fashion, we like to have a dynamic set. We always like to at least have a dip somewhere where it slows down even just for a second. So I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 moments like that.
Especially in front of family and friends. I'm sure you want to be like, yeah, let's rage, let's party.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's right.
And then end with, do you ever feel, and then get us all crying.
Yeah, that's Bingo. How we do
it. He knows our strategy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I plan on being there. Congratulations. Awesome. Congratulations on this album. It's so good. Really hits home. And appreciate the time. Good to see you, Caleb.
Yeah, same, dude.